thanks so much for joining us, Ali. Do you want to just start off and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and how you got into cars?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Rory. I live in Northern California. My name is Alexander Hoff. I live in the Sacramento area, and I am really a big car guy. And I run the social media, some marketing functions, do some consulting for a handful of automotive businesses, and I have my own personal brands.
So did you grow up in Sacramento, and were you interested in cars as a young child?
Yes. So born and raised in this area. I travel a lot, but always from here, and probably will stay here for some time going forward. I've always been into cars ever since, as far back as I can remember. My grandfather was into cars for the past 50 years. He's worked in automotive. He was a body man. He owned a body shop, paint shop. And my father has been in automotive sales, and he owned a dealership and sales management for quite some time, over 20, probably almost 25 years now. My grandpa tells me this story all the time of when I was a little kid, and he's worked on all different types of cars. He's done, Rolls Royces for royalty. He's done AC Cobras, originals, and he's everything in between. Is even one of his most recent builds was like a full SEMA custom, tubbed rear end, push start, electric everything, even brakes, shaved firewall, Lingenfelter LSA, hot rod. And so everything from classy to nasty. And he had a 6-car garage in his backyard. And he tells me the story of when I was a little kid, how I was in a Walker Bouncer, and he was watching the TV, taking a break from work, and he hears this banging in the background. And he turns around, and there I am with a large crescent wrench banging on the bumper. And he couldn't help but laugh, because I just want to be like him, right, and work on cars. And from that moment, he knew I was hooked. And long before I knew what anything was. Anyways, but I've always been in cars because of him. I was always going to car shows as a young kid. I've always been around car people. All of his friends would come over and hang out and shoot the shit and, drink beers and talk cars, look at the car that's in front of them and figure things out, right? Fix problems. He took me four-wheeling from a young age. Him, my grandma, and my dad all had Jeeps that I went four-wheeling with. And I was sitting on his lap, steering, off-road. And now he passed that Jeep on to me when I was 16. He's still around. I still visit him all the time. But he shared that with me, and that was my first car. And I'd actually taken it on in 2 days. I'm going on a 4-day trip with it up in the mountains and bringing a friend. And anyways, so cars, oil pumps through my blood. And I've got another story of my dad's side. He would take me to kindergarten, first grade, and he had this pop-up DVD player on his C5 Corvette, and I was watching Monsters, Inc., right? And I just always been around, cool and fast and unique cars between the two of them. And he would always do this thing. He denies it now because I drive pretty quick. But he would say, okay, I'm going to do the turbo, right? And it could be a naturally aspirated car. It could be whatever. It doesn't matter. But the turbo means he's hitting it and is going to punch the gas. To me, it felt obviously like full throttle, and it got me hooked as a little kid. But now he's saying I gave it like half throttle. It's like, no, you gave it full throttle. There's no way you were getting a half throttle, because when I'm a kid and I'm remembering and reliving this, it was like, throws me back in my seat and was like, whoa. So anyways, that's a little bit about my history and why I've been into cars my whole life. It started with them, and now I'm, they keep telling me that I'm bringing their passion to a new height, right? A new level, stuff that they've never done. And it's just, it's all kind of thanks to them though. So anyways, there's a little bit about my background in cars.
Cool. No, that's good to see. You started working on cars as a young child, and kind of, what was your first job? Like, what did you do at the first time you got paid? And then what other kind of jobs did you have until you leading up to what you do today?
Well, First time I got paid was mowing lawns and washing cars, detailing cars for my family, for my neighbors, for all that type of stuff. But, actually first official job was I worked at a frozen yogurt shop. Shortly after that, my dad had a car dealership, and it was like European cars, pre-owned. And every once in a while, some supercars. He'll have a Ferrari or a Viper or some Z06s and a lot of AMGs, a lot of BMW M cars, some Porsches. Anyways, I worked there, and I was kind of the run around, go do everything, answer phone calls. And I asked him if I could be in sales, and he said, "Okay, sure, but not forever, right? This is not." And it's not easy working with family, but I don't want you to just take this job. I want you to go out and get your own job, but you can try it for a little while. And so anyways, I was part-time, and he had 2 or 3 full-time sales guys. And I was matching their numbers and sometimes beating them even when I was part-time. And that's because I feel like I was a non-threatening salesperson, right? At a used car lot. Whereas the other guys are, just car dogs, right? And you could kind of spot them from a mile away. So I think that resonated well with customers, and I wasn't like handed leads or anything like that. It just worked out, and I was enthusiastic about every car. Every car, I knew all the specs, all the M3s, all the 911s, all the even the Mercedes GLs and the Range Rovers. I would research them all because I love cars, and every question they had, I had an answer to. So when I was 18, 19 years old, they didn't feel like I was trying to rake them over the coals, like probably because I didn't understand how to or what that even was. So anyways, that was my first job there. And, I started a social media account for that business. I actually grew it to, I think it was like 10,000 followers. And that was like the beginning of Instagram, like 2012, 2013. And it's kind of like this wild, wild west. Like we didn't even have messages. There was no stories. There was nothing like that. It was like you post a 1x1 square and people like it. And your feed's chronological. You could see all the posts your friends like, and in some cases, in some relationships, that was a bad thing. But, generally speaking, it was just this new thing, and it was exciting. And so I knew that there was opportunity for business there. But it was so new that, older people didn't not believe in it. So I just took it upon myself, did it. After that, I worked for a timeshare sales company. I got promoted to management there. I was an AT&T store manager. I went to work at a Mercedes-Benz dealership, and then I was promoted to internet sales there. And then the whole time I was in school as well. And then I left all that, my 60, 80-hour weeks, and struggling to balance that and school to focus on school. I had left, community college. It took me like 6.5 years. And I went to Sac State, so California State University, Sacramento. And doing that, going from making good money to making no money was like not the easiest, right? Because you get comfortable. But so I took some, odd jobs. I worked at like a supercar hot rod consignment shop. They had like 30 cars or whatever for a couple months. I worked for this windshield protection company, landscape supply, an appraisal company, a mortgage company. I worked in a handful of different industries, and various different jobs, and I think it's all helped me become more well-rounded and understand different industries and whatnot, and what I want to do in the future. But all the while, ever since I was working at Mercedes, actually, and where I left there in like 2017, 2018, I was running these large social media accounts and, 6-figure accounts from, all over the board, but mainly it was all car stuff, passion projects, and projects that, I took on with partners that, maybe had a page and it was completely dead and they didn't care about it anymore. And it's like, okay, I'll come in and I'll try and ramp it up, right? Try to do something cool with it. Let's, and then once you have this following, it's like, well, what do you do with it instead of just post cars and you have no connection to yourself? And once the page is gone, it's gone. What do we do? Let's make it tangible. So I started hosting meets. I started hosting drives, doing things that would provide value to the local car community. right? Things that people, I would be able to connect with like-minded people, network, and bring people together. And so that's what I started doing. And it started from like, I was doing Mercedes only stuff because I was running a Mercedes page. Then it turned into, okay, well now I'm doing an exotics page. Let's do some exotic drives. And then it turned into, I'm doing my own thing now because partnerships aren't always fun. So then I started in 2020. I started my own brands and I tied them to my name so that nobody could ask really to be a part of them. I have Auto Hoffs and I have Hoff Off-Road. And between the two of them is like both of my personalities. I got my Jeep and my Raptor that I love, and I love going fast off-road and I love going slow off-road, and each one serves a different purpose there. And I can't afford, my dream car is CLK GTR, or I can't, afford LaFerraris at this point in time. So, I get to go enjoy those vicariously through others, or, sometimes I'm invited to drive all these amazing supercars. I've done a lot of rallies. I just did a Gold Rush rally like a little over a month ago, where I put over 2,000 miles on a 1,200 horsepower pista, thanks to my friend Grass Gas Ass right here. And I do a lot of cool stuff with cars all the time. So, and it's all come kind of because I was trying to provide value to people in the car community, and people saw what I did and that I have a skill in building a social media following. And then also they can see that I understand how to market it and how to be the voice of a company and whatnot. So they've hired me to do that for their businesses. And it's just kind of transformed into what I'm doing today. And I get to travel the world, do some cool car stuff, and go to car events and actually help host car events and still provide value to people. That's kind of my mission, is how can I provide value to the people around me? So
cool. And you mentioned you were studying. What kind of things were you studying at school?
Unfortunately, I'm still in school. My major is economics. I mean, I'm too old to be in school, but I'm like 5 classes away, and I'm gonna just knock it out one class at a time. I'm over the social pressure or whatever to be done. Everybody asking me, because now I have my own house. I'm a little more established, whatever. Like, people don't ask me that anymore, thankfully. But I'm an econ major, and I hate econ, but it's kind of the way the world works, and it's kind of like marketing. You just dissect everything and figure out the way things work and question everything and think it all through. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to be done here pretty soon with that.
And do you think like that has helped, like with what you do with social media, like doing that course, like the school,
Absolutely.
the study?
Yeah, absolutely. And throughout school, not every single class is an econ class, but you learn about the way of the world and how people think and how businesses think. But I've also taken, some journalism classes and photography and, all these different things that help contribute to what I do now every day. So definitely it helps. And then also it's, for me, school has been an endurance race. It's going to take me probably 11 years to accomplish a 4-year, something that, ideally is 4 years, but it's like a feat of not giving up. And, there's not a whole lot of people that in their mid to late 20s become a 100 millionaire, billionaire, right? Most of that comes later in life, and you lay all the groundwork out now. So I'm doing the groundwork on the side and just accomplishing the school. And I don't know if I'm ever going to use my degree, but, it's proven to myself that when you set out to do something, you finish it. So, school's not for everybody, but I'm this deep, so I can't give up now. I've been saying that for like 5 years, but yeah.
You've been going to school and also working all these different jobs. So you've had the experience, like life experience, as well as like the theory of school. So I think it's good to have both of those in your head, as you say, like building up a business or thinking towards the future.
Totally. And I hang out with a lot of supercar, hypercar owners, successful business owners, and, all my clients as well. And, they all know that I'm still in school. And, for them, a lot of them, it took them 8 years to finish school. I have friends that have told me that, back in the day, they even hired somebody to complete their classes, right? It's just a challenge. And my biggest challenge with it is, I feel I don't have a huge ego, but I feel accomplished. And in some cases, in more ways than, in business than these people that are trying to teach me business. And so it's a hard, there's a disconnect there of why am I listening to you? But, I have a friend that, he went to San Diego, and on his manual Murcielago, he might listen to this. So, but he on his manual Murcielago, he has a UCSD alum plate, and he says it's a big FU to all the teachers because he felt exactly in the same position as me. Like he felt like he was already, ahead of the ball, work experience, already making more money than these professors. And it was just a challenge of, I'm going to show you, I'm going to finish, and I'll beat you. Right. And so that's why he has it, not to like be like, oh, look at me, I got my degree. It's a reminder to himself of you. So maybe I'll put an alum plate on my supercar when I get it. We'll see.
And you've created these group chats about Monterey Car Week where people kind of go to you for advice and tips on where to go and what to do. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your history with Monterey Car Week, how you got into that and how you've become, this expert about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I've been in cars my whole life. And funny enough, my mom, she's naturally been adopted into cars because her father, my grandfather, was into cars. So she had to, when she was a young teenage girl, go and sand cars at 5 a.m. In my grandpa's body shop, so that they don't turn the lights off. And, she hasn't really cared about cars her whole life. Anyways, her friends were going to Monterey Car Week. She knew that I loved cars and her husband was into cars. And she said, yeah, we'll go with you guys. So our friends, and I still see them in Monterey. They rented a house on Ocean, invited us out. We went to, the RM auctions. We went to the Pebble Beach Concours de Lagans. And this was back in 2010. And that was my first car week experience. And, at that point in time, again, I knew every car. I knew all the specs. I knew all the, the stuff that now I don't even pay much attention to, how much horsepower, the 0 to 60, the curb weight, right? All this, every detail on every car. And, I didn't know a whole lot about the classics. I was more into the supercars and hypercars, which hypercar was more of a new thing at that point in time. But anyways, when we were at these shows, I believe it was at a Concorso Italiano, I ran into my friend from middle school, and I was in middle school at the time. He was like my best friend. And my mom and his dad got to talking, and he's been going to Car Week with his dad since like the 70s and like hasn't missed one. I think he missed one when like his kids were born. And so he was, through and through, knew everything, was connected. He was in the Iso Bizzarini Owners Club. I got the Iso Bizzarini hat here. But and he was an enthusiast, and he brought cars to Car Week, and he brought his son with him, right? Some bonding, but his son, my best friend, wasn't a crazy car guy. He was more into hunting and whatnot, but he appreciated the cars and liked them. And so they invited me the next year because my parents only went that 1 year in 2010. It wasn't like a tradition for them or anything like that. So he invited me the next year mainly to keep his son busy. And then we had a great time, and he took me to all these events, and I learned about, a lot of the classic side of things because he knew everything, all the owners, he knows all the details, where this car raced and this chassis number and the history and why this was like this way, whereas that one was this way. And so after that year, he kept inviting me back and kept inviting me back. And I just went to a lot of car weeks with them and have a lot of fun. And then it came to the point to where I was driving, and then it came to the point where I was getting my own room after splitting rooms with them. And then it turned into now I'm just going on my own. They moved out of state, and, still have a lot of respect and occasionally, stay in touch. But I do Car Week on my own now for probably since I want to say like 2018. And even the COVID Car Week 2019, I went it was 2020. And we still had hypercar photo shoot and did some cool things. And even though every event was off because everybody was, scared of COVID-19 at that point in time, and, serious pandemic worldwide, not a lot of travel. People can't come from Europe. So, but we still made stuff happen. So I like to say that I haven't missed a single car week since 2010. And then the car week group chats, they started as, I remember somebody put me in one probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago. And it just provided a lot of value to my car week experience because, when I started driving, my friend's dad wanted to go to bed early, right? To wake up early because that's what older guys do. And we wanted to stay out and party and go see everything and go to car week and, even go to the movies. So I've been to the movies a lot of different car weeks instead of now. I would never go to the movies because I don't have the time or energy or any of that stuff to do it because I'm always out and doing stuff and parties and car spotting. But we wanted to go out and it put me in this group chat and it's like, hey, there's this car over here. Oh, that's cool. Hey, are you guys going to this event? What is this? No, I didn't even know about this thing. Oh, you need to go look at the cars over here. It's like, this is sick, right? So after my first year of being in one, the next year, I don't know if I was put in the same one again or whatever, but I started my own. Everybody that I was going to car week with that I knew would go to car week, and then their friends of friends, and it just turned into this like awesome value addition to this event that we're all going to. We all share the same passion. We can, talk beforehand and after the fact about cool things that happen or pictures we got or whatever it was. And I'm not a photographer by any means. I take a lot of pictures, but I'm not a photographer. Got a good eye, but I'm not a photographer. And then it just kind of was like, okay, well, now we have this group chat's full, so I got to make another. And then it just started to transform into this thing where it's like, okay, one year I had a few group chats, and then a couple of years ago I had 5, and then it's like last year I think I had 7 or 8, and this year I'm already at 10, and they're all with like 35 plus people in them. And so now I have this group of 400 people-ish that are going to Monterey Car Week, and we're still a month out, and I'm sure I'm going to add another chat or two and exceed 400 people that are all going to the same area at the same time. And I try to keep the chats like I use Instagram. People have asked me to use WhatsApp, but there's all these different dynamics to them. And like, I have friends that don't associate with other friends. I have, people that have been in a relationship with that other person that's in another group chat. And so it's like, you can't put them all into one thing because they're all not going to vibe. You can't put the really young first-time car spotters that haven't been around hypercar owners in the same group chat with guys that own, 7-8 figure cars and expect them to mingle well, right? One's going to annoy the other. And so it's just this, balancing act of where do I kind of put everybody, and then at the end of the day, like I also try to put in a good mix of people in each group chat. But yeah, it provides a lot of value to people. Everybody loves it. I have people that come back to me, that don't see when I say, hey, who wants to be in this year's car chat, right? Because I just posted on the stories like 2-3 times leading up to the event. And they'll reach out and say, hey, last year I was in a car week group chat. Can you please put me in one this year if you have them going again? It was awesome. I learned a lot. I've had people get free Quail tickets in them. I've had people, help each other obviously find very cool cars, but people also help sell cars. People also help, get room reservations, and just all this cool stuff happens in them. And that's why I continue to do that, because it's a lot of fun, not only for me, but for everybody else in them. And again, that's part of what I try to do, is provide value to everyone.
I'm sure there's a lot of politics involved, you say, with different people trying to juggle them into the different groups. But do you want to just talk a little bit about like the events during Car Week? I know there's a website that you can go to and kind of see what's on, but there's only so much you can learn from a website. Is there something like you can just give a little like rundown on each event, maybe chronological, like starting from, I don't know, what day does it first kick off? I know most people go on a Thursday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but it does start earlier.
Starts, this year. It usually is like a 10-day cycle, but not many people go for the full 10 days. Some people will go for the whole month. They'll rent a house and stay the whole month, right? But not many people are on that level yet, right? But yeah, this year it starts Friday, August 11th, and it goes through Sunday, August 20th. And the sites you mentioned, there's What's Up Monterey. They have a great guide. See Monterey also has a very similar guide. I don't know if they even share the same, back end on their websites, but it looks very similar. And then there's Sports Car Market Magazine. I have a friend that works for them. Shout out Darren. And they make an insider's guide that's pretty awesome. And they used to give all these tours to different events too, if you're a part of their subscriber and you signed up for their thing. But it is subscribers only to their magazine. And then also I have my Instagram group chats, which you can get a lot of wealth from people that have been in going to Car Week for sometimes their whole life. But each event I can kind of start from the top and go down the bottom. I made a little list here, but they have the pre-reunion, which is the weekend essentially going into Car Week. And that is at Laguna Seca. If you want to go to the track, that's a good time to do it because there's not a ton of people there. You got to see all the cars, and most of them are on track. Maybe not all the sponsors and stuff like that, but if you're really into the classics, that's a good time to hit it so you don't miss all the rest of the Car Week stuff. And then Monday it starts out pretty slow. I show up on Sunday. This year I'm showing up the 13th. I have like 9 days, 8 nights in the hotel. But that's so that I can get in, chill, and like have a couple days of like ramp up where I'm not exhausted. I'm already settled. I've already seen all the cool stuff that's already there. So I'm rushing less later in the week and I get to enjoy the week more. I've learned how to do this through the years. Anyways, Monday, you have the Automobilia Monterey Expo, the Porsche Monterey Classic, and then pretty much car spotting. That's all that's really going on. Again, there's some people that were there for pre-reunion at the track. You might be able to go over there, check some stuff out, maybe not. But Automobilia is like a place pretty much for old guys to buy trinkets. There's a lot of cool, and that also, honestly, collectors. There's toolkits. There's all these like old manuals. There's all these old signs, these little tiny pieces for cars, sometimes steering wheels. Sometimes you have some, carburetors. So all this random stuff. So if you're a collector or if you're just interested in that type of stuff, I'm pretty sure there's a price associated with getting into this place where you can buy stuff. But if you've never been and you have extra time and you're there early in the week, it's kind of cool to go check that stuff out if you've never done anything like it. I've been there. It doesn't change much. If I need something, it's there, but I don't necessarily go out of my way to go anymore. This year on Monday, there's also a Porsche Monterey Classic. I believe that's at the Porsche dealership. That's a pretty good show. I've never made it there, but I've had friends that go. It's usually pretty good. Tuesday, August 15th, you have the Classic Motorsports Magazine Monterey Kickoff, and you have more Automobilia Monterey. I don't know what Acura in the Park is, but it's on their website, and I'm not a crazy Acura Honda guy. I'm sure there's going to be some cool NSXs there. Doubt there's going to be any Formula One cars just because of the date, Tuesday. Anyways, and then Wednesday is the day that a lot of people come in. A lot of people that are, traveling from California or from different places around the country and sometimes even around the world. That's when it all kind of kicks off and it all kind of starts. The big first event, it used to be McCall's. Now it's called, hold up, I got a hat for it. Here's McCall's. Now it's called Motorlux. I don't have a Motorlux hat, but that's put on by Haggerty now. Haggerty bought the show. Last year was their first year doing it. They also have their auction that goes along with it, which is called Broad Arrow Auctions. Anyways, that's a really cool show. It's at the Monterey Jet Center. It's cars, it's planes. The ticket is, I think, around or just shy of $500. Your food's, taken care of. You can climb up in the planes. It's a pretty cool show. They don't necessarily have really any car releases. There's some hypercars there. There's some classics. It's not like there's necessarily any classes that I can see. It's just a fun event to be at and mingle and kind of get the Car Week vibe going. It's, super luxurious, and it's pretty cool, like going to the Jet Center and everybody's there, because that's, again, essentially what I consider the kickoff. You also have the Motorsports Reunion that kind of starts, I believe it's like practice. And then, Wednesday, there's a couple of, well, I guess they start on Thursday, but like Bonhams Quail Lodge auction, I believe their first preview opens up that day. So you can go check it out. And I'll plan it to where like Bonhams say opens at 9 and RM opens at 10. I'm at Bonhams at 9 so that I'm there first. I see everything. And then within like an hour, you can see everything there. Then I go over to RM as soon as they open. Like, best way to do car week is to plan ahead, schedule, look at everything, plan the dates, get your tickets ahead of time, especially for some car shows that sell out. Not all of them, but some of them do. They have the Pebble Beach Motoring Classic this year, which is pretty awesome. And in previous years, it's been on the Avenue and in Carmel, Ocean Avenue. And that's where all the cars that are going to Pebble, not all of them, but a lot of them, go on this rally, and they get like extra judging points if they go on this rally. And don't quote me on everything, but I'm pretty sure. I've been told, or I'm led to believe, that this is how these things work. They all show up on Carmel, in Carmel on Ocean Avenue, and you get to see all these cars that are going to be on the lawn at Pebble Beach. If you can't splurge on the $500 ticket, you're not going to be all the way till Sunday. You need to go to this if you're there Wednesday, because you'll see some of the world's best cars. Again, that's what Pebble offers. Some of the world's best cars driving, and you get to walk right next to them and take pictures and, hopefully respect them. There's another pretty cool one earlier in the day, little car show. This is, again, still on Wednesday, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's little cars, like all the smallest cars in the world ever made, like your POP 50s, your, like a Mini Cooper is like a big car at that show. All these random, a lot of like little Fiats and Alfa Romeos and stuff like that. Anyways, it's a pretty cool car show, and that one's free, I believe. Yeah, it is free. It's in Pacific Grove, and it's just a cool little place to go. So there's a few things to do in the morning, a few things to do in the evening. Again, there's more. I'm not going to go over every single event. I'm just going to go over the ones that I go to that I believe is valuable to go to. And there's others, right, that probably do provide value, but maybe I've never been, or I'm just over them. Thursday, that's, again, the kickoff is on Wednesday, essentially, and you have all these car shows that start, like the little car show, and then you have, the Bonhams, and then you have, the Pebble Beach Motoring Classic and all this stuff where you're kind of driving all around town. And then it goes to Motorlux in the evening. Well, some of the people don't come in on Wednesday. They also come in on Thursday. Like some of the rallies show up on Thursday. But Thursday, like everything's kind of in full swing. So all the auctions, Bonhams, you got the Mecum auction, you got the Monterey Jet Center auction, you've got what else? What's it? RM Sotheby's, of course. You have, they've had other auctions in the past that come and go and whatever. They work and some don't, but all their previews are open. So some of these cars, RM Sotheby's is the peak, in my opinion, and many other people's opinions. And statistically speaking, numbers wise, they sell the most money in cars and have the highest value of cars that go through there. Anyways, RM Sotheby's is an awesome one. You can't really miss it. Bonhams always has some pretty great stuff. Mecum has a ton of volume. I think they're having like over 600 cars this year. And to get into these shows, it's not too expensive. It's like, 30, 40, $50 or something like that. And you get to go see all these amazing cars, many that you've never seen. And it's pretty cool if you ever do stick around for the auctions. I don't think any of the auctions are going on Thursday, maybe Bonhams, but it's real exciting to be there and hear the auction going on and people bidding. And, if you go to Mecum, and if you go to RM Sotheby's, do I have $30 million? Yes, please. Thank you. So it's all fun. That's, they check out the auctions. And then you have a couple other shows. You have Legends of the Autobahn. And as it sounds, that's mainly all German cars. They got Mercedes, Porsche, all these different Audi. German brands and you're on a golf course. Maybe it's changed this year. I haven't looked, but that's traditionally what it's been, and that's a pretty fun show. I think Michelin comes out to that. Porsche has a huge presence there. What other shows are on Thursday, August 17th? You got RetroAuto, Pebble Beach RetroAuto. The Tour d'Elegance is actually on Thursday, so that's what I thought the Pebble Beach Motoring Classic was. But the Tour d'Elegance, that's the one that they go into Carmel. That's the one you can't miss, presented by Rolex. The RetroAuto is kind of like the Automobilia, but a little bit classier and a little bit more geared towards art. So I think they have it at the Spanish Bay in previous years. And then they have the Classic Car Forum. That's where some people talk. They have the Prancing Ponies Women's Car Show. It's great for them. I'm sure it's a great show. I've never been. Friday, August 18th, that's when the auctions, they're still in full swing, and some of the auctions are actually taking place that night. You have Gooding & Company, Mecum, the Jetsoner, which is Broad Arrow. It might change, I'm not sure. Bonhams, RM Sotheby's, and then you have the big one, the Quail, a motorsports gathering, which my first one, I believe, was 2019. And I've gone every year since, because once you go, you're like, I got to find a way to get back to the show, because it's kind of like what a lot of people think is the peak of Car Week, even though, realistically Sunday is, that's what Car Week was built around, was a Concours Elegance. It's just, it depends on what you're into. The Quail provides more of the modern supercar hypercars, whereas the Pebble Beach also provides that because they have their concept lawn, but primarily the car show is focused more on classics. Anyways, the Quail auction, you buy a ticket. I think it's like a $950 to $1,250, depending on what level ticket you get. But and if you're an entrant, you get to buy tickets at like $650. So if you have a really cool car and you want to put it in, that's a way to get cheaper tickets. But there's all these different food stations that you can go to, check out, eat different types of food from different parts of the world. Anybody's there. The owners of all these companies, the CEOs of all the companies, the CEO of Lamborghini, Bugatti, which now is Rimac. You got, Horatio Pagani, you got Christian von Koenigsegg. They're there. They're talking to people, a lot of times to clients, but a lot of times you can go up and just have a conversation with them, and they're super cool. They're super excited. They put on their game face for that day. They're super high energy, and they're ready to help. They're ultimately there to sell cars, but at the end of the day, they're all car guys too. And they love this. And this is, one of probably their favorite shows all year round. It's a beautiful setting. There's helicopters taking off, coming down. All these cars are featured on beautiful backdrops. I forget how many, but they have like dozens of car launches throughout the day. So there's a schedule, and it's like, okay, at 10:10, at 10:20, at 10:40, like all these different car launches. Like everybody wants to get earlier in the day, because then all the media gets their pictures and images and live videos, and then it is able to go spread around the world and go to Europe and stuff like that. So actually, it's interesting. The Asian car companies like to be later in the day, because then, as far as time zones are concerned, it's more like morning or night. It still hits the right time zone for them. Whereas like the European car companies want to be in, the first bits of the day, because they're, 8, 9, 10 hours ahead. So anyways, that's kind of how it's organized. But again, really amazing show. A lot of cool stuff to be there. It's the place to be. You're fed, you wine, dine, all that all day long. And again, that's kind of one of the peaks. If you don't get tickets, which is pretty hard, resale tickets are going for like around $2,000 right now, which is crazy, and conversation I don't care to get into. But there's other events as well. Works Reunion is a pretty good one. That's a pretty fun car show to go to. I think it's a lot of Porsche stuff, and then you've got all the auctions going on. Another thing you have is the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion. Friday's a good day to hit it. Friday's not a race day, I believe. I believe it's like qualifying or practice or something like that. I have gone to the Monterey Motorsports Festival for many years, and I've had a lot of fun in it. An amazing event. You got to go. If you've never been to Car Week, that used to be the one that it's like, if you can't miss an event, go to it, because you see all the cool cars, all the classics, running, racing. You smell the fuel, you hear it, you see them drifting. Sometimes you unfortunately see crashes, but people come from all around the world to drive in this event. So Monterey Motorsports reunion, again, that's on Friday. But if you do have your Quail tickets, go to the Quail, or if you can find a way into Quail, or buy secondhand tickets. It's a pretty special thing. I have one other hat that I don't know if I'm going to get into this story, but it's a funny hat. And my mom made it for me, my friend, Grass Gas Ass, his wife. This is a hat that says Quail, Jail, Quail. And if you follow me, you might hear about it one day. But yeah. I'll just say this. The police force in Monterey is out in full force during car week. Don't be stupid. Don't do stuff that could get you to go into jail, because you might. That's a very real possibility. If you got a Senna and you're racing some other crazy supercar that maybe you know them, maybe you don't, there might be a cop that gets you, and they're going to try to use the full force of the law. And anyways, but you have ticket dismissers for that if you need them. Okay, what day are we on now?
Experience with that story?
What is that?
Are you talking from experience with that?
I am, yes. I have the hat. So, they didn't give this at the jail, but I was not personally inside, but I was there waiting for my friend very deep into the night. But again, thanks to ticket dismissers, we're good to go. It wasn't as big of a problem as it could have been.
Over the years, how has the police presence kind of affected the shows? I know last year they kind of shut down a bunch of roads during the night. Is that become more prevalent over the years?
I forget what year it was, but maybe it was 2018, 2019. I have this live video that I've saved to my phone, but there was a night on Cannery Row where things got a little crazy. It started turning a little bit ghetto, and it was thrilling. But people started doing burnouts on Cannery Row, to the point where this was, there was a Hellcat, and Hellcats were newer in 2017, 2018. And it smoked the tires so much that it burned little holes into the asphalt, and the rubber behind it was on fire. I have this on video. It was nuts, and everybody was doing it. And the Daily Driven Exotics guys, they were there, and they were revving, and Alex Joy was there. And I didn't really know them or follow them at the time. Now I know them and done rallies with them, whatever. But yeah, it got a little crazy. And actually, I remember Christian Van he stays on a hotel right there, right on the water. At least he has in the past. Now they get houses on Pebble Beach that I believe they stay at. Anyways, he even came out, because it's there's all this noise, and he came out. He was smiling. He's like, "Damn, this is crazy, right?" I don't do that in Sweden, or many parts of the world. Period. The street was crowded with people. The sidewalks, it was just going nuts. And then the cops came. Surprisingly, it went on for 20 minutes before cops came, right? Because there was no problems at car weeks really before that. Anyways, the cops came, and they shut it down. They sent everybody home. I don't know if they ticketed anybody or pulled anybody over, or what the deal was. Maybe they did, on different streets, but I was standing right there in the heat of it. And after that, it was kind of I think everything kind of changed. And then I believe it was the following year, there were some specific YouTube personalities and quote unquote rich kids that YouTube was all the rage, and everybody was making a ton of money. And it's how can we get viral? This was viral videos were the thing everybody was after at that point in time. And they thought that doing donuts in Carmel on Ocean Avenue would be great and that people would love it because we're all car enthusiasts. And, even though Carmel is not a, sanctioned car event, it's like a town where people actually live and operate their businesses and art shops, and not everybody there actually likes Car Week. They were doing donuts in the intersection, and like people had their kids around, and yeah, it wasn't good. It ticked a lot of people off. And after that, they, I believe got, again, don't quote me, right? This is all off memory. I don't have a fact sheet in front of me, but I believe somebody might have gotten arrested, or at least, tickets or cars, something happened. Whatever the fact of the matter was, like, everybody knew who it was because they were very public. And that kind of changed everything going forward to where, like, okay, all police on duty, every single officer in the building has to be at Car Week. Like, you're all offered like as much overtime as you can take, as much as you want. You could be a detective sitting at a desk that never patrols, or, only patrols whatever your minimum ask is. You're out there, right? You're going to be out and patrolling, like all squad cars on duty all the time, because this could be seriously bad for, we're the county, and we're approving all these events. And because of this, some kid dies, right, by getting smacked by a GT3RS's rear end or whatever. So that's kind of when everything changed. I believe that was 2018, or maybe it was 2019. And then obviously COVID happened, and there was all these articles and all this speculation that, they're going to shut down all these Car Week events and nothing's going to happen. And, thankfully that didn't really happen. Maybe they made it a little bit harder and looked a little bit deeper into, certain things going on. But, you had exotics on Cannery Row that kind of spurred the whole event of, everybody being on Cannery Row and all these exotics and stuff leaving and whatnot. And these masses and masses of people that, the previous year, I think it was 2017 or 18, all these people to be in one area, encouraging all these, low IQ individuals to start acting a fool. Anyways, cop presence from when I, first started going, and even when I was driving there, to now has increased drastically. Carmel, they shut it down. They'll shut it down at night to where there's roadblocks so people can't just cruise up and down, which was a fun thing to do. But some people turned it into, okay, can I do these 136th mile drag strips or 132nd mile drag strips? No, you probably shouldn't do that. And nobody really cares. Anyways, the moral of the story is, if you're going to go, try to behave for everyone else to be able to enjoy these events. There's plenty of places in the world where you can show off your cars, where you can drive fast, where you can, do burnouts and donuts. The county of Monterey is not turned into a racetrack, that weekend. You want to run up the coast a little bit, sure. But, at the end of the day, it's all public, property. You can't do anything, against the law, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But there are people that do drives. Cops know about this. They're in those positions, every different day. There's, groups I know that go on drives in different directions, up and down and inland and all that type of stuff. But Monterey, Carmel, it's pretty tight. If you don't want to get your car impounded, you don't want to go to jail, you don't want to receive a pretty crazy ticket and have to hire my friends at ticket dismissers to help you out, it's probably best to act right and just be cool. And they'll I've seen friends get tickets for stickers in their windshield, a hang tag from their, rear view mirror for no front plate. I mean, they just really want to make a point to everyone. Like, we're here, we don't care. And I think they're doing some stuff this year with their PR to try and make the police seem nicer in the area. But over the past few years, they've been very tight with things. So anyways, that's, as far as the police go. And it's good that we started that on Friday night, because that's when stuff gets crazy. That's when everybody starts rolling into town. And then, that's Friday night. Then you roll into Saturday. After the Quail, all that stuff. Don't drink and drive, by the way. That's really bad. You should never do that. And you can kill people. And there's a ton of pedestrians all over the place in Monterey. Ton of priceless cars that, you screw them up. You hit your rear end one, whatever, you nick one, open the door on one, you're walking around a car show, your camera scratches one, your pants, you have a button on it and it scratches a car. That car's out for maybe a year, right? Waiting for a part or something to get refinished or somebody that can work on it. So just be careful. Then we go into Saturday. Saturday is, you have, Exotics on Broadway, which again used to be Exotics on Cannery Row. That was a crazy event. And you get to see a lot of hypercars there. If you live in the Los Angeles area, you can kind of go see those hypercars on once a month, at some kind of car show or another, they'll be there, or you can go around all the dealers and see most of them. But if you're not, a frequenter of Southern California, it's a pretty cool place to see a bunch of Paganis and kind of Segs, if you can't get into the Quail as well, or go to their houses or whatever, you'll see some pretty cool hypercars. And, there will be some that the world hasn't seen before, new specs or new modifications, HRE wheels, which is one of the best wheel manufacturers in the world, if not the best, aftermarket. They're there always, and they bring a couple cool cars and, showcase their carbon or their 3D titanium printing.
And that's a free show compared to all the other ones that are like thousands of dollars.
Yes, exactly. And that's probably the best reason why to go to Exotics on Broadway. It's free. There's a ton of cool cars there. I know that they claim I forget, it's like 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people. Whatever it is, there's a lot of people there. And it's a pretty long event from morning to, almost evening. There's a ton of people there. I think they have it over in Seaside now. It used to be on Cannery Row, but then now they're moved to Seaside, which is better in some ways for parking and whatnot. But yeah, if you've never been, it's madness. The people that go to Car Week for a decade plus, some try to avoid it like the plague. And I have a lot of friends that go and show their cars and have a great time. So I go, I always have a good time. Again, like Horatio Pagani and Christian von Koenigsegg, right? They're at the Quail, right? But that costs minimum $1,000 really to get into. But this is a free event, and you have the opportunity to meet them. So it's pretty cool. And it's pretty cool to see all the cars. I think last year they had, I forget, 5 or 6 F50s, like Ferrari F50s, and all these Bugattis, and I think an Apollo, and all this cool stuff. So definitely worth going to. It's not like an all-day thing, really. It's go check everything out, walk the show. It takes you maybe 2 hours. And then you're on your way to your next thing, because there are a bunch of other things going on. You have Concours Italiano, which I've been going again for a long time, and I've seen it, change through a couple different locations. I think this is, I want to say, the 3rd location. Anyways, it's essentially a large Italian car meet. It's like a Lamborghini meeting, a Ferrari owners club meeting. It's, they have all the Fiats there. They even have these same 3 or 4 Cadillacs that, are Pininfarina bodied that show up every year. And then they have
Is that on a golf course?
Yes. Yeah. I forget what the name of this golf course is now. And then you also have the Bizzarini ESO Club. They're always there. Those are my homies. So I got to say, shout out to them. But yeah, Concours Italiano, great time. Tickets are pretty expensive. I think they're $325. I don't particularly seek it out anymore. It's for the most part, once you've gone. There's no car releases. I think between the Monterey Motorsports Festival and the Exotics on Broadway, you're going to see everything you kind of want to see. And then, obviously there's some other car events going on that day, but I just mentioned a new one Monterey Motorsports Festival. That's a pretty cool event, and it's a pretty exciting event. And let me think if I have a hat for it. This is their first year for the event, so I probably don't. So I'll just put on my hat.
What's the kind of cost is for that? Because it's a new event. Like, who are they targeting?
So obviously you have the Quail, right? Which with a ticket price of $1,000, obviously they have a pretty specific demographic of you have to be comfortable with your money enough to spend. Say you bring your lady and yourself $2,000 for a day, right? This Monterey Motorsports Festival is, I think it's like $100 for tickets or something like that, but it's an all-day event. It starts at 11 a.m., goes to 10 p.m. Here's a couple reasons why to go. A, Mecum's their title sponsor. Again, like I said, Mecum has 600 cars. Mecum's bringing a ton of cars over to MMF. I have friends that own businesses that are attending MMF. They have music. They have a ton of food. They're working with the same people that Motorlux does, which is that $500 event on Wednesday. The same food vendors are going to be at this Monterey Motorsports Festival so that you can get a taste of all these amazing different foods. And why that's important is because Saturday, not only do you have all the people that are there all week for Car Week, some people leave Saturday night, but most people leave like Sunday or Monday because really it builds up to the weekend. So the Monterey Motorsports Festival, a reason that it's really a special event is like Exotics on Broadway. There's food options around, but there's no real food vendors. They got a couple food trucks. But on Saturday, everybody from all the surrounding areas come in. Like even people from, my area, the Sacramento area, which is 3.5 hours away, and people from, San Francisco, the Bay Area, whatever, they all drive in for the day, and Exotics on Broadway is a free event. So a lot of them go to that event. Every single restaurant, all the good ones, especially, like they're either completely booked up or you're going to wait like 60 to 120 minutes to get a table. And then service is going to take a long time, which is fantastic. I love supporting the local restaurants, but I don't think me saying this is going to put a dent in any of their business. You can eat at the events, right? And this Monterey Motorsports Festival is going to have a lot of food options. I know because I talk with the organizer quite often how cool this event's going to be, especially for being a first year event. Like they have full support of the all the police, the Monterey County Sheriff or the Saline County Sheriff, and the CHP. They have the county's support for the fairgrounds where they're actually hosting the event. Which, if you think of the fairgrounds, like they have music festivals there, they have huge events. Like it's geared to cater to a ton of people, and that's exactly what they're going to do. I know they've already have thousands of tickets sold, and they're expecting a ton more because everybody keeps asking, hey, are there going to be tickets available on the day of the event? Because they don't know if they're going to have time in their schedule or whatever it's going to be, because everybody waits till last minute to plan everything in life, period. But it's going to be a cool event. It's not geared towards, your 100% hypercar enthusiasts or, the people that want to see Ferrari 250 GTOs. This is all the people that are coming into town for the day. What are they going to do in the evening? How can they extend this experience instead of just going to one show, right? How can we open this up to the general public and make it for families? Well, that's their goal. You're gonna see more about it this year. This is a first year for them. They're figuring everything out. It's a small business. It's a local guy to the Carmel area that wanted to start this. Some of these events have been going on for decades and decades and decades, and some of them have these huge corporations behind them. This is a car guy. This is an enthusiast that decided he had this idea and he's bringing it to life. So I'll be there. And then Saturday evening you have some of the most expensive cars ever crossed the block at RM Sotheby's, right? That's a pretty, if you've never been there and you have the time and you have the money, that's a pretty amazing place to see. And even if you can't be there, follow online, follow on their, I'm sure they have a live stream somewhere on their website or, on their social medias, because you're going to see some crazy numbers go across the block. And it's a sight to see. It's a spectacle in itself. On Saturday, you also have a funny car show that I've been to a couple times, Concours de Le Mans. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of lemons. It's like, how shitty of a car show can we make? You have the annual Ferrari Owners Club gathering. I don't know why they do that at the same time as Concours Italiano. They kind of both seem like the same thing to me, but whatever. And I'm not a Ferrari owner, so it's not something that I'm, eager to go to. I've seen F430s before and whatnot. Let's see. So yeah, that covers Saturday, and then it all ramps up till Sunday. And Sunday is at Pebble Beach, Concours d'Elegance. That's what the whole week was formed around. And it is on the 18th hole of the Pebble Beach golf course, golf links. And it is right there behind the lodge. And it is extreme elegance, people from all around the world, all walks of life, the richest of the rich. I literally one year saw, Governor Schwarzenegger there, in the morning. And I want to say he was walking with Seinfeld. Anyways, you see all different kinds of celebrities, political figures from all around the world. They're there. That's the peak of automotive shows worldwide. The best Concours, the best everything. It's crazy busy. It's packed. I always show up early. So early, in fact, I can't put on two hats, so I won't put the green one since this is a computer, maybe green screen. But you get your Dawn Patrol hat. And Dawn Patrol is when you show up before the sun comes up. Haggerty, they do this, and it is so crazy to watch. You have these people that are, multi-millionaires, and they're fighting over a free hat, like ripping it out of each other's hands. So it's pretty funny. And just because of that frenzy, I end up wanting to get these hats so bad. I end up stashing a couple under my shirt and going back and getting more. It's just a thing. I don't know what it is, but anyways, that's the Haggerty Dawn Patrol. Haggerty is obviously a partner of Pebble Beach. And if you're there early enough, coffee donuts tradition. They've got coffee for you. They got donuts. And if you're there early enough, you get to see all the cars drive onto the field. And that's pretty exciting.
So do you need to get a ticket to go to the Dawn Patrol?
You need a ticket. Yes, you need a ticket to be at Pebble Beach. Pretty much every event besides like the ones on the avenues and Exotics on Broadway, you need a ticket for.
Because you can't even really get close because they close the street off and you have to show your ticket before you can even drive in the gate. Yeah.
Right. See, these are details that I skip over because I've been going for this will be my, what is it, 14th year? Maybe it's because
people are going to be like, oh, how can I sneak into this? It's like, you can't sneak in.
Don't try. Yeah. Don't try to do that. I mean, I say that, but I've also tried to do it everywhere. Right. I mean, come on, but yeah.
It's like a highly secure type place.
Pebble Beach is definitely pretty locked down. I'm not gonna say, but it's pretty locked down. Yeah.
But like the Quail, can you get close to like where the cars come out? Like how far? Like people can kind of wait out the front of certain venues just to watch the cars drive. Like
this is another exciting thing. Obviously, if you don't want to spend $1,000 for the ticket to Quail, or you don't want to spend, I think it's $575 now day of event, or $475 ahead of time for the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, right? And that's just per person. The Pebble Beach, obviously, they have I think it's called the Motoring Classic. No, the Tour d'Elegance. That's one that you got to go see, and it shows up on the avenue, and that's where you can see most of the cars. For the Quail, after the event, you can see a lot drive out, and even the days before the event, all these trucks are loading in. You can only get so far really with the Quail, but with every show, obviously the entries and exit, there's going to be some cars, but like Quail, a lot of the cars are placed like the day before, the night before, so that nothing's moving in the morning. And driving out, yeah, there's some that drive out, but not not a ton.
For say you're a car spotter or a photographer and you want to kind of find some cars that aren't at the events, like where's the kind of best places to kind of go and like try and capture some of these maybe hypercars or just other supercars or like rare cars that you probably wouldn't see anywhere else?
Totally. There's a lot of places. Everywhere you are in, Carmel, Monterey, surrounding areas, you're going to see some cool stuff. If you go to an event, always be sure to walk the lot, because you might see one of the coolest cars there. Pretty hard to say that at some of these events, but you might see some pretty amazing cars in the parking lot. Like I was just at F1 in Silverstone in the British Grand Prix and at Silverstone, and there was a Bugatti Divo in the parking lot, right? VIN 001. Like that's not something that you just see, and there's no crowd around it, right? There's tens, if not 100,000 plus people at this event, and there's not a crowd around it because nobody knows. But same thing, at Car Week, there's, I remember like this guy, BC Ben Chen, like one year he brings his, CLK GTR, and I'm following it on the road. His Bugatti, Veyron and EB110 Super Sport, right? His Bugatti Veyron Vitesse, Pure Blanc. Like they both pulled into a bark and dirt and grass parking lot. And it's like, I'm just in the parking lot. We're getting ready to leave this parking lot, and there's these cars pulling in front of us. And it's like, oh my God. Like you just don't see these cars anywhere. Even you're not going to see an EB110 Super Sport, unless you maybe go to the Peterson. Like there's not many places in the world where you're just going to see that, especially ever on the road. So go check the parking lots at all these events. But, during Car Week, if you're on Ocean Avenue, especially in the evenings when people are going to their nice dinners or going to their houses around Carmel or going from, Carmel Valley into Pebble Beach, you'll see some pretty good stuff on and around Ocean Avenue. You also have Cannery Row. Ever since, Exotics on Broadway, Exotics on Cannery Row is kind of left there. I don't know if there's a ton there, but a lot of the corporate, hotels are right there on Cannery and around there. So there's still a lot of cars. There's still some cool stuff in the parking garages. Alvarado Street or Alvarado or whatever you want to call it, right by the Portola is pretty good. That's where there's a lot of restaurants. There's a lot of people driving around. There's some hotels there. And then 17 Mile Drive. I stay at one end of 17 Mile Drive. I stay in Pacific Grove, which is kind of at the peak of the peninsula. And it's so that I can cruise 17 Mile Drive every time I need to go to Carmel. And when you pass through 17 Mile Drive, sometimes you won't see much, but there's other times where you'll see these pre-production cars doing photo shoots, right? Cars that actually may not have even been released yet, that are still doing their photo shoots. And then all these people with hypercars, like I know that some friends and I are setting up some hypercar. I'll put on a different hat because this one's tight. Here's my Pagani hat, signed by Horatio Pagani. I bought the hat at the Pagani factory and got it signed at Car Week. Anyways, there are a bunch of countless opportunities on 17 Mile Drive. I'm setting up some of my friends now, big hypercar shoot, which if you're in my group chats, you'll be able to learn about that live. But 17 Miles is a pretty good place to spot. So.
Cool. And then, like, so say if you see like a hypercar, like what's the best way to kind of approach like an owner? Like I know some people probably don't really want to talk to other people. They're private guys, but they obviously, in your experience, how have you met like these kind of people through like social media, or do you like talk to them at car shows? Like what was your approach?
Yeah. So, for myself, like I said, I started hosting supercar drives and whatnot. And that's kind of how I got, connected with a lot of these people via social media. Social media's changed a little bit since then, and there's a million photographers out there. And, my friends with collections are asked nonstop, nonstop, to the point where I've even seen some guys, be funny, and it's like, you want to shoot my car, you got to pay me, right? And so they put that in their bio, pay me this amount of money. But I even get asked secondhand, hey, can you help me set up a shoot with so and so? And there's some people that really enjoy the photos, and if you can find a way to provide value to them above everyone else, maybe they'll do it, right? But for the most part, it's pretty tough. But what I would say is, if you meet somebody at Monterey Car Week, say you're taking some cool pictures on the street of their car for whatever, for yourself, for your archives, for your social media, for fun, just to test out your camera, just because you love the car, want to share it with some people. Everything that's out is a free game. Everybody generally likes photos of their cars besides chaos. I wouldn't recommend necessarily dropping business cars on people's cars or anything like that. But if you see them buy their car, you can maybe ask them, hey, do you have an email that I can send these photos to you? I'd like to share these with you, right? Or do you have a place, do you have an email, or do you have, anything that I can just send these photos to you in some way? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have whatever, right? I'd like to tag you, or I'd like to send these photos to you to share this moment in time, right? Of you being at Car Week.
Even like a collaborative post I've seen nowadays, some guys will accept if you do a collaborative post on Instagram.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's another great idea is just post them, right? Or again, if you're in these group chats sometimes, or you have your own group chats or whatever, hey, does anybody know this car? Right. And then you find the owner's social media if they're on it. And then you can send the pictures to them and say, hey, I personally, whenever I do collaborative posts with any of the businesses I run or any of the pages I ran in the past, I like to reach out to the person beforehand so that they know. And so it's not just out of the blue. And they could say, well, sure, but just make sure, I'm not in them or whatever. Right. Or I don't want ones with my license plate out there, even though, it's public and it's fair game and you can do whatever you want. That will go a long way, you asking them, in my opinion.
So that's another thing to touch on, like the rules of photos. Like a lot of these supercar, hypercar owners, they don't want to show their face on camera. So as a courtesy, it's best to not, if you have a picture of them, to not post it, to just try and stick to the car and not film their license plate.
Things like that. So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, a lot of people like to live private lives and not be, in front of the camera. I traditionally don't. This is like the first video that I'm doing kind of like this. But this is something that I want to provide value to the people around me that are going. And, if anybody wants to listen to this, us talking, I'm sure they can extract some value from it if they're on their way to Car Week. So, but yeah, a lot of people live very private lives. You have some of the wealthiest people in the world coming to these events, and they want to drive their cars. And because of how many people there have been now, some of them are discouraged on coming because of how much publicity they get and whatnot. So then they resort to more private events. But yes, great point. Maybe try to not get in people's faces, especially I would never recommend doing that. And if they're kind of covering their face, okay, you don't need the picture of that car. Right? You don't need that video, right? You don't need to capture that. So enjoy the moment. You can take a mental image.
And so I guess we're kind of up to the dawn patrol during Pebble Beach. What happens after dawn patrol?
Yeah. After dawn patrol, the sun starts to rise. And, all the cars, while the sun's still down, it's pretty special to be in the dark. And you have these cars that, are in some cases over 100 years old. And some of these that are, the best examples of that car in the world, and some of the most prestigious winning race cars ever, driving with their lights on at night, packed with people, right? If it's a 4-seater, they got 4 seats. If it's a 6-seater, they got all 6 seats full, because everybody wants to drive onto the lawn at Pebble Beach. Because how cool is that? You want to share that. If you're an owner of that car, you want to share that with your loved one or your friend or the person who helped you build the car or whatever it is. all these cars are driving on. You get to hear them putting around, and then, people sending them down and going, well, I guess if we're doing Dawn Patrol, I got to put on my Dawn Patrol hat. You get to see all these people driving to their spots and getting the cars parked. So then, then the sun starts to come up and there's more of that. And then by, say 8:39, pretty much every car is in place. And, I like to walk the show personally. Last year I didn't because I woke up late. I wanted sleep. I chose sleep because I've been to Pebble Beach every year. But generally speaking, I like doing the Dawn Patrol thing, fighting rich people for a couple hats and then walking the whole show before everybody gets there. You get amazing photos, in my opinion, with soft light, beautiful, and less people around. You get to walk the show kind of in more peace. A lot of times you get to see some of the owners with their cars because they get there and they wipe them down. I've helped wipe cars down on Pebble, on the golf course, friends' cars that have shown, and it's like, that's just fun and exciting, and it's a special moment. You're sharing with the owner, with the people, and it's like, this is the best these cars will ever be. They're prepared sometimes for years and years with 6 and 7 figure restorations just to get to this lawn, right? People's whole lives and all of their knowledge and skill put into one moment where they get judged. So it's pretty special, and I like to get there early. I like to walk it all early because by the time that the floodgates open, it's pretty busy because of how special it is. And you got all the wives there with their amazing hats. They don't, more often than not, they're not there for the cars. They're there for the social aspect. It's like the Kentucky Derby. You see more men wearing colored pants per capita than anywhere in the world. But it's something cool. And, I have so many friends that have gone to Car Week for so many years and they've never done Concours d'Elegance. And to me, it's like, why? This is what this whole week was for. Like, I get it, you're not into the classics, but it's not even just generally about that. This is like the art and the passion and the experience and the history. Like, you have to do it once. You really do. It's the one, in my opinion. So that's what happens after Dawn Patrol. You go check stuff out, then it gets so crazy. I was a guest of Mercedes-Benz a couple of years ago, and they invited us. If you're in with some of these companies or collectors or whatever, you get to go in these private suites. Mercedes-Benz, which I used to work for Mercedes-Benz. I ran a Mercedes-Benz page. I'm a huge Mercedes fan. A big Benz boy. I've had them myself. I love them. They had the suite, that like biggest suite, right when you walk in the lodge, it's like right there. And it's overlooking, the 18th hole and the whole, like the stage where they drive up and do the awards and the fireworks go up, or the confetti, whatever, the streamers. And that was amazing. And like, normally I like to go to Pebble Beach, go in the morning, see everything, crowds come, I'm kind of out, right, by like 10, 11. But because I did the whole, VIP experience, it was like, let's stay all day. Let's hang out. This is cool, right? We could just hang out in the suite, go back down, check some stuff out, like whatever, and watch the show, watch the awards, which I'd never really done until that point, probably like 2-3 years ago. Anyways, that's Pebble Beach for you. Got to do it. That's what the whole week was built around. In my opinion, if you have one show to splurge on, like really splurge on a ticket, that's the one, because that's what the whole week was built off. Then you can work your way backwards and do everything else in following years.
And then once Pebble Beach finishes at like 5 p.m. or something, and then everyone just goes home.
Yeah, pretty much. Somewhat earlier than that. And, parking is a little bit crazy, but I put on my Quinnesec hat now just to spread the love. Me, yes, normally I would. And I gone home Sunday many times, right? It's like we go to Pebble Beach, we finish it early, then we hit the road. And then it's, 3.5, 4 hours, adding some traffic and stops to get home. But now it's like, no, I want to stay Sunday night. Like people are still there. It's like the wind down. You get to, maybe go out to dinner with some friends and wind down from the crazy week, share some more memories. And then now that I bring cars with my friend, Grass Gas Ass, we don't want to load cars at night. He's drinking and other people are drinking. It's like, no, we'll do that tomorrow. We'll worry about that tomorrow. We're going to sleep in. We just had a crazy week. We're all sleep deprived and exhausted. Like, it's not a time to start trying to put, cars on wide and low cars on tight trailers and hook up straps. So yeah, no, we go home on Monday, and a lot of people decide to go home on Monday. And again, some people stay longer than that for car week. They turn it into car month. But, generally speaking, a lot of people will leave Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and then the smart ones will leave on Monday.
Cool. And so, like, I know it's an expensive week to, get accommodation and all these tickets. Like, how do you make this, like, maybe not a profitable, but something that's worthwhile? Like, are you doing networking throughout the events? Like, are you getting some money? Are you creating revenue through some photos or like writing stories? Like, how is this worth it that you've always come back every year?
Absolutely. I have said one thing to, employers, friends, family for a long time now, at least a decade, is I will quit a job if I don't get to go to Car Week, right? I will leave. I'm sorry. You need to approve this. This is me having a baby, right? This is my favorite week every year. And that's, really what it is for me. And I did forget, to bring up parties. So please do remind me about the nightlife in Monterey. But, it started again, like before I had ever worked, aside from mowing lawns and washing neighbors' cars. And, I'm so thankful for my family and my friends for all the amazing experiences that I've had, growing up. I'm so fortunate. But as I've had to, go on my own and, be a young adult in school and working and trying to figure life out, and then also go to Monterey and not miss a single year. Like I said, 1 year I slept in my car. Right now, I go to I get media access to a lot of events because of the stuff I do and because of the pages I run and have ran, and and because of some of the value I provide to these specific events. So if you can find ways, again, to provide values to the event, sometimes they'll see the value in that and invite you to their event for free, right? Like, you can apply for media ahead of time. There's some of these events that are 4-figure tickets, right? That I have media to this year. And it's because of the value they see I provide back. It's not, necessarily because of relationships that I've built or anything like that, right? That of course always helps, who whatever. But they see that, my following is very high quality, specifically in the Northern California, Southern California area, to the hypercar owners that these events, and classic car owners that these events cater to. I work in the industry. Some of my clients host events, that are directly affiliated with, and actually some of the events there are even partners for some of my clients. So that's not what happened in 2010, my first Car Week, right? That's not how it was for me. And even 6-7 years ago, that's not how it was for me either, right? I didn't go to Quail 7 years ago because it was like, that's too expensive. No way, right? I can't afford that, right? But I can save up a little bit and I can go to, the Motorsports reunion or whatever event there was, and obviously hit all the free events, right? And maybe splurge on a Concours Italiano ticket, or maybe save up for the Pebble Beach ticket, or like I said, I don't do sneak into an event, here and there. But if you can find ways to provide value to some of these businesses, I have friends that I encourage. With some of the positions that I have, I help run media for different things, events, and I have this network and database of hundreds of photographers, videographers, journalists, YouTubers, all that type of stuff that, provide value to the events. And through that network and through what I do with them, it all works out. It all comes around. So provide value to other people. Oh, and they reach out to events, and even the ones that aren't big events, and say, hey, can I help gather content for you? Right? You can own my content. I'd like to be there to capture it, show you what I can do so that we can establish a relationship, and I could be, yours in the future. I hate saying it, but having a following is what most of these media companies, what most of these events are looking for, right? Because they directly relate, they don't necessarily do a full review on every single person's following to see how high quality of a following it is, right? But if you have a large following, it helps you a lot get into some of these events. You got 1 million followers on Instagram, 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and a couple million on TikTok. You can probably get in just about anywhere as long as the vibe is right. And as long as, the niche is kind of aligned and whatnot, and they'll see the value that you can provide, and then once you're in, you can't just take the free ticket and run, right? And not promote them, because then you won't be invited back in previous years. So once you're there, provide the value, over deliver, and then, coming years, you'll be more and more set. There's not many events around the world besides like Formula One racing events, which once you get into that, you need like clearance for the whole world. And like, I have no interest in really going that deep. I've been approved media to every single thing. And I don't have like a huge following behind me at this point in time. What seems like that, because I ran a lot of, six-figure, mid six-figure accounts. And, I have a lot of friends with 7 and 8-figure followings. But, like my little car page, I have 35,000 followers on it right now. My TikTok, that I don't pay any much attention to, it's got like 80,000 or something like that. And my off-road page, I have like 130,000, which is a pretty substantial following. And like in the off-road world, it gets me into every door that I need to get into as well. But my exotic car one, 35,000, and that's it, right? But what I do, how I do it, the people I connect with, and all the other relationships that I built have put me into this position. So my recommendation to everybody is follow your passion and find ways to provide value to people in it. You never know what directions life is going to take you. Be open to new things. Throw your name in many hats. I'm kind of a yes man in a lot of ways. Like, you want me to do something? Yeah, I can do it. Right. Well, what's your specialty? It's like, well, here's my specialty. Here's what I'm really good at. Here's what I'm not good at. But I'll do what I can if it's the right opportunity. Right. I'll do what you need me to do because I want to be here. Right. Or I'll direct you where to go for it. Right. Where you can actually get a better value than having me do it. Right. For the same time, price, money, whatever. And always trust your gut. So provide value, and once you get an opportunity, give it your all. Don't just take it and ride, because, if you plan on, like me, being in the car community for the rest of your life, like, it's a small community and you can burn bridges easily. So Car Week gets better every year for me. So I'm looking forward to my best Car Week yet.
Cool. So basically you mentioned that to get a large following will let you get into these events. Any advice? And we could do a whole 2 hours on just social media and how to build a following, but we don't have time today. So just I guess any advice for how to build a car page specifically? Like you were mentioning, there are niches. So, you either want to focus on supercars and hypercars, and off-road is kind of a separate kind of thing, because there are JDM people, and then there are certain groups within. You can't just post everything, because then they might not like certain things. So to focus in on a niche and kind of how often do you post, and find car events or dealerships or owners that you can kind of get this stuff when you're starting out. You don't have much money to spend to go to these big events. So once you've built that following, then you can kind of go from there. And you mentioned the parties and networking, like what is the, like for you, what has been successful in terms of like meeting new people and maybe securing new accounts or handling their social media pages to earn money, I guess?
That's a lot of questions in one, so I'll try and knock them all down one at a time. But yeah, for me, what is success, and what I kind of live by a few simple things. I try to be a good person, and I try to treat others like I'd want to be treated. But when it comes to opportunities, I think of what do I need to live, bare minimum, right? And then anything above that, what do I value my time at? And I've had performance personal coaching in the past and whatnot that has helped me take my business to the different heights than I would have thought. And my first clients, my clients now, it's like a difference of over 10 times the pay difference, sometimes even more than that. So it's just really finding what you do, finding your ideal client, and then turning it into how can you provide value to them that exceeds what they're paying you. And if so, then it's a good investment for them.
I know social media has changed over the years, and you have to be on top of like trends and like figure out what works. But any advice for people who are just starting out and want to build a larger following?
Absolutely. It depends on what platform you're on, but generally speaking, it's all the same. And I personally consult on this and train people how to do this, and Zoom calls and all that type of stuff. So you get some insider information here. But when I started my pages back in 2020, they were like, I had one that was like 500, the other was 600 followers. And they were just kind of like accounts that I didn't really do much with. It was more for like my personal network to understand what I was doing. One was in business, and then another one was like with my personal vehicles, my cars. And that was more for people that I went jeeping with and wanted to connect with in the area. When I stopped running the large accounts with other people, I went all in on mine because I had this time, COVID-19, everybody was home. Everybody was connecting on social media. There was like that app called Clubhouse, if anybody remembers it, where I met a lot of people. But it's like everybody had all this time to be on social media because if they were work from home or not working, unfortunately, a lot of people lost their jobs and whatever. But everybody was like trying to be an entrepreneur and like get online and do things and be more active there. Anyways, after I stopped running these large social media accounts, I just went all in on my own brands and said, let's see how good I can do within a year. I'm going to give it a pretty solid effort. And my, exotic car page one, I grew to, 28,000. That's a private account. So it wasn't growing, just by posts taking off or anything like that. It's been private, since I started this journey. And there's a lot of reasons to that. But my off-road one, I grew to over 100,000 in a year. After that, it was more like, okay, let's maintain the growth, but my focus isn't 100%. Let me try and hit 1 million followers. It's more like, okay, now what do I want to do? Right. And then I became busier in life, and people saw I was posting incremental, updates, from 500 to 100,000 in 10 months, right? Pretty steady the whole time. I was posting, hey, thank you for, 50K. Thank you for 55K. Thank you for 60K. Thank you for 80K. Right. Thank you for 90. Thank you for 95. Wow. Look at this. 100. Here's a big post. And then people saw me still growing after that. And so after that, they kind of were like, wow, you're pretty cool at doing this. So not like I'm pretty cool myself. Not that cool at all. But can you help do this for my business? I understand you know what you're doing. And then it was like, yeah, sure. Let's figure this out. How do you want to do this? Right. And, and it's again, marketing and sales and all that type of stuff, the psychology behind what makes people
think certain ways and do things and react to different things, and the wording behind stuff and content and all that has always been, something that I've followed closely and loved. And again, I've been on social media since the beginning, essentially of Instagram, especially, but even before that, I was on MySpace, and before that is different versions all the way through, and now I'm on as much as I can be on, or know about, for the most part, or care to be on. Many don't get a lot of love and attention because I don't see the value in it, but I'll try it. Like TikTok, I tried it. I grew up to 80,000 followers. I did a pretty solid evaluation on what it is that I want and what it is that it provides. It's like, yeah, this isn't for me. So it just kind of, sits now. Maybe it provides a little bit of value to the overall brand, but generally speaking, if you want to grow your following, right, capturing cool content and posting it. The number one thing people are worried about is the specifics on how to post, what time to post, what to say, what to do, what to capture. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. And you're going to find out once you post what people like and what people don't. And that's how you learn, by doing it. Between all the businesses and my personal pages and all that type of stuff, I don't know how many times I post a month, at least 70, 80 actual physical posts, plus you've followed me for a while, thousands of stories, right? Thousands. And I see what gets responses and I see what doesn't. I see what takes off well and what doesn't. And some of the businesses is like that. And then others, I formulate a general strategy of, okay, what are we going to do so that when people land on this business page, or when somebody sends this business to somebody, or when somebody searches it, they look at this page and they trust us. And they understand that we're a place to go to where they can, trust doing business with us, trust their money, trust their investment, trust their whatever it is that said business provides. All my businesses now are automotive, and I'm very thankful for that because that's what I'm passionate about. But I've done restaurants, I've done realtors, I've done gun companies, and all those different types of stuff. But obviously I'm passionate about food. I mean, I love food. I'm a big boy. I like guns, I like all that type of stuff. I like real estate, but my real passion is cars. So the other, niches, it takes more thought and consideration for me. Whereas the cars come super natural. Everything to say, what to do, all the knowledge behind it, what looks good and what pops on social media, because I run so many big car accounts. But, as far as posts go, generally speaking, I've probably posted on Instagram more than anybody I know because I've ran all these accounts. Many of the accounts I'll run multiple at a time. I'm logged into like 20, 30 on my phone right now, and like 30 plus Facebook accounts, right, for all these different businesses and pages and little ideas I've had and all this type of stuff, to where, again, between all the businesses and my own pages, I post 80 times a month and thousands of stories a month. I don't know anybody that does that amount of posting. Like, that's a ton, and if they do it, are they doing it all themselves, right? Or, in some months are probably upwards of 120 posts. But the repetition is what makes you great, right? If I was to dedicate all of my time to one brand, like I didn't take on any businesses and I just focused on Auto Hoff, or I just focused on Hoff Off-Road, I could take it up to the sky. But I have so many other businesses that I put ahead of my personal brands because that's what they pay me for, right? And those are my clients. And I don't like being in the limelight, and I don't like, those type of things. And it's also pretty risky because you put all your eggs in one basket, that basket drops, right? You're screwed. So I like personally diversifying and working for these different companies and working with different people and getting to travel to different places. I'll go to some car events and I'll have 3-4 clients there at one time. And so I get to go hang out with my clients and have a good time, and some of them invite me to car events, or, like, hey, come with me. I'm going to take delivery of a new car, or come with me over here, and whatever it may be. But the repetition is what's taught me to be really good and how to do it and how to understand how people think. So the more you can do it, the better off you'll be. Don't be scared about the details. Post, capture content. Once you post it, you'll find out what people like. Obviously, don't put up crap, right? Try to put. I kind of live by another saying: the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you do one thing crappy, everybody's going to see that you do everything crappy. That's why, like, I'm a neat freak. That's why, like, all my cars, I try to keep them like clean, and I try to keep them dialed. Even though I'm not, super wealthy, I do so much preventative maintenance and try to keep them looking good and make every mod, specific. And every post I do, I put a lot of care into it. And every once in a while, I'll spend a couple hours researching what I'm going to say in a post, just so that when I come out and say it, it's right, and it hits on point. Nobody can doubt it. It's solid. I don't just spew shit sometimes, but I try not to, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So put effort and care into everything you do, and just do it. Be like Nike. Just do it. Just get out there, do it. And once you post, you'll find out what people like. You take in the data, just like my econ, major has taught me. You take in all the data, you look at what the trends are, you see what people are liking, what people are commenting on, what people react to. And then you replicate that, right? And you try and do that. But that doesn't mean only do that, right? You got to build your own brand. You got to sometimes make posts and make things that don't matter to everybody. But every single post, if you have one person that really, really, really engages with it, and is like, that's the one guy that is the expert on this topic that I know of, and if I ever need somebody in this field, he's the guy. Then that one post that got one like, when all of the rest of your posts get 1,000 likes, that post was super valuable, and may even be more valuable than the other one with 1,000 likes that was just a nothing post. So if you are talking to a room with 100 people in it, that's a lot of people, right? Like this video, say it's only going to get, I don't know, 100 views, right? Just for an example. If 100 people listen to this whole thing, holy shit. Like, we got a message out to a lot of people and provided value to them, right? And they're going to go to Car Week, and they're going to be like, my experience is hopefully enhanced a lot because of this. I know what to go to, and I know what not to go to. I'm not going to waste my time going to this event, but I am going to make sure that this event that I didn't think I was going to go to, I'm going to go to. And they might meet their next client. They might meet their next boss. They might meet their next, usually Car Week's a lot of guys, but you might meet the next loved one, right? So you just never know what's going to happen. And getting out there and doing it is how you make shit happen.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's great advice, like in terms of posting and building a following. Like, you can't overanalyze everything and rethink and like edit forever, because you could spend a week or 2 weeks like making the best content ever, but you put it out and it doesn't really go anywhere. Rather, you could spend a few hours or a few even minutes just on one video, and then move to the next video, next one, and try and post every day or a few times a day, and just get content out there and not be so like precious about like making it perfect. Like, that's where, especially with like how fast the social media moves nowadays, it's like you have to put out stuff, and content is king. But learning, like you said, learning a lot as you're posting, like what resonates with people, what doesn't. Maybe stop doing the stuff that doesn't perform well and focus on what is performing well, and try to replicate that and do more of that, and it'll push you into a certain direction. So it's a good idea to have in the back of your mind what direction you want to go to, whether it's, a classics page about old Porsches, or, you want to do hypercars or supercars or off-road cars. So yeah, there's so many different avenues that you can go down. It's just a matter of finding what you're passionate about and what you really want to spend your time on, because these kind of things, it does take a long time, and you're going to be spending a lot of time. So you might as well do something that you enjoy.
Yeah. And I've had pages that I've started and have fizzled, right? Because it's like, it's not taking off, or I'm not as passionate as I thought I was about it. But generally speaking, like,
the off-road side of me will always be a part of me. The exotic, supercar, classic car side of me will always be a part of me. So those will stick forever, right? But I've had watch pages, I've had all this type of stuff, and it's just, it doesn't stick because that's like, I'm not like super crazy into the world, like all the ins and outs. And that's not to say I won't be in the future, right? It's not to say it didn't benefit me, but you tried it and it wasn't exactly what you thought it was. And, you'll find your brand as you move on. Obviously you can have a general direction when you take off, but that'll change. That might alter, 2 years from now, what you thought you wanted may be different. So, but yeah, exactly what you're saying, got to have a general direction and post and do it and just do it.
Cool. And then you mentioned the parties in Monterey during the car week. Like, is this something that you use your time to network with other people, maybe try and land new clients, or are you kind of enjoying yourself nowadays because you have enough clients? But maybe back in the day when you were looking for like new clients, was there a certain technique or like a way that you would approach people, or would you just try and make friends first and then maybe hit them up later with an email or a call? Or how would you go about that kind of thing?
So I've actually pretty much every one of my clients has come to me. It's been a referral. I've never really gone outbound about getting clients. Everybody will refer me to someone else, which is awesome. I mean, hopefully it means I'm doing something right. But there is one client that I really do appreciate and I love working with, that I did actually meet one of their representatives at Car Week. And we talk about them first. Let me put this hat on. Where is it? I got a couple of their hats. Here you go. Velocity Invitational. They were actually, I went to their first event in 2019, and it was at Sonoma Raceway, and they were called the Sonoma Festival of Speed. And it was my friend that I gone to Car Week with for many years, his dad, who invited me. His son didn't even go. I think it was just him and I, because we, tight buddies. And I went with him, and it was a great time. And I just, then there was the COVID year. And then the next year at the Bonhams auction, I saw this logo at the Quail auction. They had a booth there. I was like, huh. I said, this logo looks a lot like the Sonoma Festival Speed logo. And she says, you've got a good eye, and this was their first event, and they're going through a complete rebrand the next year. And she says, yes, we were at Sonoma our first year, and this year we're Velocity Invitational, and we're going to be at, Laguna Seca. And it's like, okay, wow, fantastic. And, I said, I wanted to get media access to this event, because I wanted to go back. It was a great event. I loved it. And I wanted to go for free, right? Just like I do to every event. I want to go for free because I know that I can provide value to the event. Realistically, I don't want to be at an event and not be able to be kind of rewarded in my mind for the value that I'm providing, right? Otherwise, I don't want to really promote the event. And I know that I have this huge network that will listen to me when I tell them, go to this event, because I only say go to this event if it's a good event. Anyways, met them. And she says, what do you do? I showed her a little bit about what I do. Hey, look, I run these pages. I have my own brand. This is kind of what I'm doing now. And she says, okay, so you do like social media? It's like, yeah. And I do it for a couple businesses too. Oh, wow. Well, we actually need that right now. It's like, okay, well, I'm your guy. And so I do a lot of things with them. I set up, different car displays. And like last year I did this McLaren Ultimate Series display, which I'll send you a picture on. And we had like 16 or 17 Ultimate Series cars. We all spread out on the corkscrew. Anyway, so they had Velocity Invitational for 2 years at Laguna Seca. The gal who denied me 1 year, I then kind of took her position. So it was funny how that worked out. Maybe not for her, but and that I love working with them. They're an amazing event, and again, it's like, some people have gone to it and said, this is the best automotive event I've ever been to in the world. People that have been to everything. I just got back from Goodwood Festival of Speed. I got back from all these things. I really personally like
Velocity Invitational. Anyways, that's one client I met there, but for the most part, all the parties and whatnot.
When is Velocity?
Velocity is this year. It's November 10th to 12th at Sonoma Raceway. November 10th is my birthday, so if you're there, you got to say happy birthday to me. But
I'll have to apply for a media pass. Do they still give them out?
They do. Yes, we've got like over 200 people that have already applied for this year's event, even though we're like 4 months away. It's going to be our best year yet. Got McLaren Formula One team, McLaren Racing comes out. Zach Brown, he's going to bring some Formula One drivers like he has in the past, and even some more this year. They do demos. We have cars from the 1910s all the way up to, modern race cars on track, all these different race groups, and then all these different display groups and all these hypercar manufacturers that bring their cars, and it's a pretty special time.
You mentioned the parties at Monterey. Like, what are they all about?
So back in the day when I was younger, that wasn't something that was like really a part of my car week, right? But now that I have a lot more friends in this space, and I'm of drinking age and beyond, and I get to go to some of these parties. That's like a lot of the fun of Car Week now. Is like you get to go to see all the cars all day, and then at night you get to go party, and I like to party, and so it's pretty fun. Some of different manufacturers, different dealers. Some of these are like pay dinners. Like there's one that I'm really looking forward to this year. It's Thursday, and it's at the Santa Lucia Preserve, and it's like a Concours type dinner event, and it's put on by the Luxury Rally Club. And anyways, I'm helping the organizer get a couple cars and whatever, but like that's a really high-end, exclusive, like pretty much invite-only event. You don't just like buy a ticket and get to go. It's like you gotta be on a list. And then you have all these dealers, like, I have some friends in the Bay Area, and they have they work at McLaren, Lamborghini, whatever, Pagani, all these different dealers. And they have customer appreciation parties, basically, where they invite all their clients, and they'll rent out a house. And because everybody that likes cars is in the same place at the same time, let's try to do something that they can all come to and enjoy their time with us and network with us. And, maybe they can talk a little bit, have a little speech or something like that, say thank you to everybody for coming. And they'll have a couple cool cars around, around a pool or in the front yard or whatever it is. But there's all these different like little parties that the more you make friends with and work with different businesses, like you'll get into these. They're not stuff that you can just generally buy tickets to, but it's stuff from going to Car Week for many years, or being connected with the different automotive businesses that go to Monterey Car Week. That's been one of the more fun things in recent years to kind of explore for me. And there's some parties that it's like, yeah, I wish I could get into, but I'm not there yet, right? Like I was just on the phone with a friend last night who was talking about Casa Ferrari, right? It's like, you're not getting in unless you have like a Daytona SP3, period. Like, unless you were the original purchaser and still have your Daytona SP3, you're not getting it. But, I don't know if that's, for sure or certain or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty, some of the parties are pretty tight. And then some are just, where it is, and you might be able to get in or get in with a friend. Anyways, that's a big different side to the Monterey nightlife that when you're younger, maybe you don't get to experience. But if you go hang out outside of some of these parties, you might get to see some pretty cool cars. And that just comes from having friends and knowing where they are and cruising around at night and finding stuff and making stuff happen. I bumped into some pretty cool scenarios because of it. But usually the parties are pretty like they have a list on who gets in type stuff.
Cool. Well, yeah. Are there any just advice in general? Like I think we've covered everything, but is there anything else that you think would be helpful for people that are thinking about going up to Car Week?
Yeah, there's a couple things. A couple places to eat. I have some good friends that own a restaurant. They own a couple restaurants in Carmel. One is Demetra Cafe. Great food and amazing people. They always have some kind of live entertainment going on between the wait staff, and
That's an awesome place. I always will support them. I actually flew earlier this year on Valentine's Day just specifically to go there. And rented like an old Rolls Royce. And anyways, but after that, there's some good Italian down in Carmel. Little Napoli is one of them. Napoli, whatever. And then in Monterey, there's a sardine factory. You know, it's not like it's exceptional. Oh my God, best dining ever, but really cool ambiance, pretty good food, cool rooms that you can go in. There's all these different rooms that are like designed cool. And then, but like I did say at the events, you know, if you're there and they offer food and the food doesn't look like, oh God, you know, some of these events are going to have some good food offerings. I would suggest eating there because then you'll save probably money too, but you'll save a lot of time waiting 1-2 hours. Nobody wants to wait that long for dinner. And then once you're there, it's like super long and overextended and everybody's beat and whatever. Maybe they're out of stuff. I don't know. But if you're at an event, support the event. You know, obviously it still is local business for the Monterey area, smaller business. And you're also supporting the events because a lot of the events have some kind of, you know, profit thing go into it instead of them paying for rent for a spot or whatever. So there's one thing, you know, places to eat. Obviously, the further you go out of downtown Monterey and Carmel, the easier it will be to get into a restaurant. And then like where to stay. If you're a super big baller, you rent a house on 17 Mile. If you're pretty well off, the Spanish Bay, the Inn at Spanish Bay, Pebble Beach, the Quail, or you get a house in Carmel. But there are a ton of places to stay. By the time this video goes out, there won't be. There's not many places left, and the places that there are expensive. But you know, for future years, book early, like as early as the hotels will let you, right? Just plan, like, you know, a lot of the hotels too, like you can refund or they don't charge you anything but, you know, a deposit up front, and it's good to have. Don't overbook, you know, and say, oh, well, I'm just going to book 10 rooms and then screw everybody else out of a spot that they wanted to be at. But last minute, Airbnb, VRBO are good options in town as well. I've had friends that have gotten stuff like a couple days before on Airbnb because people just automatically will list because it's like, oh, car week, I should list my house now, or somebody backs out. And then, you know, last resort is you're going to have to stay out of town at Salinas. Aside from that, I think we pretty much covered just about everything there is. If you guys have any questions, you know, Rory is obviously pretty experienced in car week himself. And you guys can feel free to reach out to me anytime at Hoffs, Hoffs. And I will be happy to put you in a group chat or answer your questions myself. Thank you, Rory.
No worries. And are you doing like a drive this year or like organizing any kind of meetups or anything like that?
Yes, plenty. I don't do necessarily any drives per se anymore under my own brands, but I do. I host a lot of events now. So I in my area, I have a Cars and Coffee at 916 CNC. And then I host other events, you know, with Velocity Invitational. I have another brand that I work with. This hat was signed by Vettel. You got Hypercar that I've worked with in the past. You have just, there's a handful of stuff, and I try not to share everybody that I work with. I don't like my views being associated with all of these brands because maybe they have clients that are directly whatever related. So I try to stay in my own lane and do my own thing. But, you know, I host my own Cars and Coffee. I go on a lot of drives, but I don't really host any drives too much anymore because I started those so that because I wasn't getting invited to them. Now I'm getting invited to them. So I have to host them.
Cool. Yeah, well, thanks for joining us, Ali, and hopefully I'll see you at Monterey Car Week this year.
We will see each other for sure, and I hope to see everyone else there.